There are moments in your life that really define you, that you realize that this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. This is the thing I want to do for the rest of my life. And when I was young, my parents took me to the go-karts for the very first time. And it was a place called Lakeland Go-Karts in Hamilton, Ontario. It's still there today. My brother and I had our first opportunities to, if you want to say, drive on our own. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was going around a turn and the back end stepped out and I caught it. It was all instinctive, all automatic. And in that instance, I knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to drive cars. I wanted to drive racing cars. It was just the most defining moment of my life. Years later, after I had dated my now wife for some time, we went to the Nürburgring and we did a couple of laps in the rental car. And she turned to me and said, "That was fun. Let's do that again." She's a person that she has her own interests and she kind of went along with, my enthusiasm for things because really my entire life was defined by wanting to go racing and being involved with racing and everything that goes along with that. She came along for the ride and has been a wonderful companion that way. It became time to decide, how do we propose, if you will? And the decision was very, very easy. I took her to that exact spot and I told her the story and asked her to marry me. Lucky for me, she said yes. So when my wife and I got engaged, instead of buying her a ring, I decided to buy her a watch instead. And it was a special purchase because it was the first money I had ever earned driving a racing car. And I used it to buy a Chopard Mille Miglia, which is a watch that has a racing theme and a racing background to it. And so every time I look at it, I think about that moment, and I also think about what it took to get there, and I'm so happy that I'm able to share that with her. Of course, the wedding bands are another story, and my wife and I both like things that are kind of cutting edge, high tech, whatever have you. We decided that it would be great if we could get wedding bands made out of titanium. And in one of my travels, I came across a gentleman whose family owns a company in Italy that supplies all of the titanium for the Ferrari Formula One engines. I asked him, I said, "Look, would it be possible for you to make us our rings out of titanium?" He said, "Absolutely, it'd be no trouble at all." So I supplied him with a sample, sent it off to him, and a few weeks later, I get an envelope in the mail, and in there are 2 rings and a very nice letter, as only the Italians can do, that says, a gift from our family to yours, and wish us luck in our future life. The letter also expanded on the fact that they use the exact super alloy that is made for the Ferrari Formula One engines. So my wife and I now have a little piece of a Ferrari Formula One car around our fingers. But there's another part to the story as well, and that is that in 2006, Ferrari was in a deep battle for the Formula One World Championship. And Michael Schumacher had an engine failure, and we wondered to ourselves if right around the time they were making the rings, that they left out a little bit of titanium from his engine. Well, it seems as though that my wife and I have had endless car adventures. But one of the most poignant and one of our favorites is that I, for years and years, talked about wanting to do a Cannonball Run. And I explained to her what it was because she hadn't heard of it in the past. Eventually, things went okay for us, and I was able to buy a Lamborghini Murcielago. And having watched the movie Cannonball Run endless times, I saw the Murcielago as the modern interpretation of the Countach, and I wanted to replicate that glory, if you will, by driving from the Red Ball garage to the Portofino in the Lamborghini. So we decided, we're going to do this. And COVID slowed it down a little bit, so eventually we got our window to do it. And we drove from Toronto to New York City. And then in New York City, we got our photos taken at the Red Ball garage. And the idea was that we have to respect the people who do this for time. So to call it a Cannonball Run isn't exactly fair. We'd like to call it the Cannonball Fun, because the idea was to use the correct starting and ending points, but just enjoy the journey cross-country in a really cool car, which was the Lamborghini. So we started at the Red Ball garage, found our way out of Manhattan, and then took a spirited but leisurely path across the country. You would think that you'd be uncomfortable in there, but both myself and my wife were actually quite comfortable on the drive. It wasn't bad at all. Well, the only thing that I did do is I took the sport exhaust off and put a stock exhaust back on it to keep the drone down. But it was smooth, comfortable. The air conditioning works fabulous. and the seats were remarkably comfortable. A lot of people think that the Murcielago is this full-on high-performance sports car, and while it has a lot of capabilities, it's not a great canyon carver or twisty road car. It's much more of a grand touring type car. So it's remarkably comfortable and well suited to highway conditions. And driving cross country, the car just cruises along beautifully, but it's the absolute worst car you can imagine to try to set a Cannonball record with. On a number of occasions, we'd be driving along, minding our own business, and yes, we had a couple of radar detectors with us. A cruiser would be coming the other way, and the moment that they saw the flash of orange, all the radars went off because they realized that they thought that they had a live one there. But amazingly, we managed to do the entire drive without getting stopped once, which I was stunned. I was convinced that just on the numbers, we were going to get stopped at least once. Stopped at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, worked our way past the St. Louis Bridge. We managed to go to Pikes Peak. We climbed Pikes Peak with it, which was a lot of fun. Crossed the Strip in Vegas, experienced speed with the car, not to be repeated. So once we made it to the Portofino, one of the things you do, of course, is you take your pictures and you send it off to friends and family to announce a little adventure that you had. But the greatest adventure laid ahead, because my wife did the entire drive 5 months pregnant, and we used it as the opportunity to announce to our friends and family that our daughter was due to come in February of 2022.
Whether you see the car in person or buy it sight unseen, when you buy a pre-owned car, you need to get an inspection done by a qualified professional. And the nationwide network of trained inspectors from the Lemon Squad is the best way to accomplish that. They give you a great deal and a great bit of information about any car you're looking at very quickly. They've been supporting VINwiki now for 2 years, and I use them personally because when I'm buying a car, I need to know the full story. So check them out now at the link in the description below and use the code VINwiki for 10% off, and never buy a used car without the Lemon Squad.